Once again, Jada Pinkett Smith embarrassed Will Smith nationally and perhaps internationally as well. I've done a session on them in the past, so I want to this time get to the point. And the reason why I'm even talking about this is because I feel like so many ordinary, everyday people go through what Will Smith is going through. Bottom line, in my opinion, it feels like Jada just doesn't love Will Smith. There's nothing he can do. It's just the way it is. And it feels like that the harder he tries, it's almost as if she despises him even more for it. And ultimately, she's still obsessed with something from the past. She's obsessed with Tupac. Many are wondering and asking the question, why is Jada doing this to Will? Why? Why is she so emotionally abusive and insensitive and unfair and all of the above? But I feel like this is the wrong question to ask. The right question to ask is, why is Will Smith letting this happen? Because at the end of the day, we can only control ourselves. We can't control anybody else. So here's my opinion. Will Smith is tall, good looking, rich. He's an A-list movie star. At one point, he was an A-list music star. One can argue that he's bigger than Tupac ever was. And he definitely has a lot more star power than his wife. If anything, a woman like her should be feeling like she's the luckiest woman in the world that she's with Will Smith. But sometimes it's not about that. Sometimes you just can't force yourself to love someone. And that's okay. But what's not okay is the way she's treating Will Smith. Perhaps she feels guilty for not loving somebody like Will Smith. The world is thinking, how can she not love someone like him? Especially that he's the father of her children. And perhaps that's why she can't leave him. Or maybe they have some kind of marriage contract and she's just trying to piss him off to get out of it so she can get a certain amount of money. Or she's exploiting his fame for an opportunity to make money and make herself more famous. Whatever the case may or may not be, we shouldn't look at her. We should look at Will Smith. Will Smith has the power to leave her. So the question is, why won't he? Maybe he just loves her too much. Maybe she has some kind of blackmail on him. Who knows? Maybe it has something to do with a marriage contract. Maybe he has Stockholm syndrome. But ultimately, he doesn't need her. He's Will Smith. He can have any woman he wants. And she'd treat him like a king. At the end of the day, they're both celebrities. And we everyday people, we can't relate to them. Which is why we shouldn't take an example from them. Okay? Now, I feel that nobody deserves to be punished. Okay? No matter how in love you feel like you are. Okay? Love, unfortunately, does not conquer all. You have control of your own life, and you can't control someone else. You will never get them to love you like you want them to love you if you're in the same position as Will Smith, for instance. Okay? You can move heaven and earth. It will never be enough, and it's not your fault. It has nothing to do with you as a person. It's chemistry, whatever it is. It has nothing to do with you, and I think what's more important is for you to love yourself. And nobody deserves to be abused this way. And people like Jada, I want to just talk to the people that are like Jada for a second. People like Jada are obsessed with something that doesn't exist, something from the past, because Tupac has passed away, right? So there's nothing she can do to get him back. And okay, fine. So maybe Will Smith is not the guy for her. And I'm sure there's somebody else out there that could perhaps fill that void in her life. But I want to talk about something because I feel like people do need to move on. And I'm going to talk about this one movie I saw, Mr. Nobody. Okay, so spoiler alert. If you didn't see the movie and you want to see the movie, perhaps you should stop watching or listening right now. But Mr. Nobody is one of those weird movies. It's all about, it's very rich with metaphors and symbolism. So it might take a little time to understand the movie. But I'm going to explain this one part in the movie. I don't think it spoils the movie or the plot, I should say. It doesn't really, conflict with the major part of the plot. So basically, there are two 15-year-old kids, and the guy has a crush on the girl, but the girl is obsessed with a little bit of an older kid. He's like this cool kid with a leather jacket, and she's obsessed with him, and he's no longer into her. the cool kid with the leather jacket. So the kid who's 15, the boy, he tells her that he's in love with her, he wants to marry her or in the future or whatever. And she says to him, no matter what he does, she'll never be into him, and she's just obsessed with the kid with the leather jacket. So he tells her not to worry, yada yada. 20 years go by. Okay. And they're married with kids and everything. And she's depressed. She's a wreck. She's in bed. Why? Because she's still obsessed with that kid in the leather jacket. I know it sounds ridiculous, but look at Jada Pinkett Smith, right? So it's real. Like it's possible. It's possible that people are obsessed with their past. So ultimately, she actually leaves her husband and she goes to work in a hair salon. And and I guess this is a little exaggerated, right? But I guess it's really for us, the viewer, to see how ridiculous this is. So she's sitting in the hair salon waiting for a client, and she's staring at the photo of the kid with the leather jacket. And who happens to walk in? It's the kid with the leather jacket, except now he's a man. He's recognizable to us, the audience, but he looks a little older, and now he's wearing a humble suit instead of a leather jacket. And, she has a blank expression on her face. Nonchalantly, she sits him down. She cuts his hair. He pays her. He leaves. She sits back down and she's staring back. She's back to staring at that photo. So what does that say? That says that she's obsessed with something that literally doesn't exist. She's obsessed with the past. He was right there, delivered to her on a silver platter, and she didn't even recognize him. And this is what people go through in real life. I hope everybody listening found this useful, because I really do feel like people just get in the way of their own happiness.